wake up. It's time to eat. Mr. Clayton? Mr. Clayton?
Get away from me!
What's going on?
I woke him up, baby.
Who are you two?
Hey, welcome to another episode of the Bobby Experience. I'm here with my co-star. We are in a film together that's screening on November 16th, directed by LaRita Smith. I'm with the one and only Hollywood Dan Kairas.
Hi there, Bob, once again.
Hey again. All right, before we get started, first thing I wanted to ask, the short version of how you got the name
Mr. Hollywood.
Mr. Hollywood. Yes.
All right, short version, about 6 years ago, they had an open casting call for one of the Transformers movies. I went there, there had to be 10,000 people. They got my name to be an FBI agent. I was actually going to be in the film. They were supposed to start shooting in November. I told Lynn we should go to our retirement place first week of October and be back in time just in case they, shoots my name. Well, I get a call down in Arkansas. We'd like you here Wednesday. We have an unscheduled shoot. I go, sure, major motion picture. I'll drive back up there. We need you here this afternoon for a fitting. No way I can make it 12 hours. So I said, sorry, can't do it. She says, we'll go on to the next guy. If you watch the movie, this is the one that came out in 2013, I think.
I think so.
13 or 14, whichever one it was. About 8 minutes into the movie, you see all these FBI agents sitting in chairs in a conference room.
Wow.
At least a couple seconds of film time. I could have been him or him or him. I go, crap. Well, while I was standing in line, I was listening to a couple of people talk about Tail Sticks Castings, who did the casting for, at the time it was Chicago Fire, and I think it was either the first or the second season of Chicago PD. I did a couple episodes, went to a softball tournament, World Series tournament in Vegas, and this would have been September. Well, as it turned out, I told our second baseman, John, that I was doing this extra stuff. He goes, wow, that's kind of cool. Well, we were up by 2, top of the 7th in the semifinal championship game. This guy and the other team's up on, they've got 2 guys on, 2 outs. This guy hits a rocket between me and right center field. He doesn't have a chance in getting this ball. Either I catch it, or it goes to the fence, they get inside the park home run, and who knows how many more runs they could score. Full out tilt run, 18 inches horizontal ground, just like you see in the majors. Snag the ball, hold it up, guys out, we win the game. I get back to the dugout, John goes, that was a real Hollywood catch, Mr. Hollywood. And that's how the name came about.
Has a ring to it.
That's right.
Right. But now that you mentioned that about softball, so you're an avid softball player. You stay active. So tell us about that. Like your.
Oh sure. I'm on. I'll be on 2 traveling teams next year.
Wow.
70s team and a 65 team. We go to a number of different tournaments throughout the country. We're going to Phoenix just in a couple of weeks. We just got back from Vegas a couple of weeks before that. We've been to Michigan, Indiana, North Carolina, South Carolina, Iowa, I think, a couple other places. It's just something to keep me going, because it's one of the few things I do halfway decent, And it's kind of fun when you get a guy. Well, I also play in a recreation league in Elgin, and there's no feeling that's better than when this guy hits one over your head, and you hear the bench on the other side, you burned him, and you make one of these catches at the wall, and you know that you just deflated their whole team. So it's just kind of a fun thing to do.
Wow. All right. So next, I want to discuss the film that we're in. So you play a character, Andrew Clayton. He has a terminal illness, struggling with memory. What can you share about it?
Well, when LaRita cast me in the film, I didn't have a clue what happens with Alzheimer's. My stepfather's sister had it, but living in a different city, I really didn't get that involved, so I wasn't sure how to even act like an Alzheimer's patient. Well, I did, I don't know how many hours of research, going to different videos and documentaries about people who were on it, and the effects of the family members especially. And I tried to mirror some of what I was doing from that. If anybody would have told me I was going to be lead in such a moving piece of film 6 years ago, I would have told you, you're out of your mind. I don't do on-camera stuff. I like to be the guy behind the camera. But it is such a cool thing. Well, you had your moments in there, and you've done some other stuff, so you know the feeling.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, all right. So for the people that are going to view it, I do play the role of a caregiver, which was shown in this scene previously. So this film that we're in, has a lot of themes. Like when it deals with aging, disease, family, how the family's affected by someone's disease. What would you say you'd want the viewers to be able to take away, after leaving this film?
Well, I think dementia and Alzheimer's, and as far as I understand it, Alzheimer's is just a clarification or a different subset, I guess, of dementia. But it's like a silent disease. There are, and again, this was going back to the research I did, millions upon millions of people who are affected by this, which means there are that many more family members who have to take care of the person that has it, sometimes 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The healthcare system, it kind of falls in between, and it's extremely expensive, obviously. And it's a drain on, the remaining family members. So it would be nice to have people become a little more aware of how much this affects so many people.
Very much so, and not to give too much away, but daughters take your daughter's taking care of you, right? So character's not in a nursing home, so that's, I think a lot of families out there can relate to. Some family members not in nursing homes, and they're taking care of them right in their home, not in a facility. And we know how some facilities are. We hear the stories of how they're not treated well, and sometimes they're actually abused. So
I had a situation with my mother, recouping from a broken hip, and we looked at a number of facilities, and they're so dark and dank, and I don't know how you put it into proper words, but just depressing. And to have to live there for who knows how many days, how many years. One of the gentlemen, one of the videos I was watching, did a documentary on a couple, and I think this was in Britain somewhere. The husband was the one that was affected. His wife had to take care of him basically 24/7. And he started the documentary, it was 9 years that she had to take care of him before he finally passed away. So you're talking, what kind of a strain does that put on her? And it's just, like I said, it would be nice to have people be a little more aware, if we can do that in the film. And I've got a little teaser for you if you want. I have talked with LaRita, and because it was a short, it didn't have that much exposure. I said, LaRita, after doing this research and all, finding out how many millions of people are affected, we have to do a full-length feature on this and somehow get it out. Now, whether it happens or not, I don't know. But at least I put that bug in her ear because she wrote it to begin with, so she'd have to, do a whole rewrite and everything. So I don't know whether she wants to do that, but I'm certainly trying to talk her into it because I do think it's a very important message.
Yeah, this particular film you're a part of, we're a part of. It's one of these films that I'm particularly proud of. It's not simply something that's for entertainment purposes, but it's one of those films I think that educates people, gives a message, and it's something that that families can relate to. I mean, we got your films that have your fantasy, your action, but this type of genre, I think it's really going to touch a lot of people.
Well, again, I think it will just because of the number of people that are involved. As part of the research I did, I can't remember whether it's 6 million people worldwide with just Alzheimer's or whether it's 6 million. I can't think it's 6 million people just in the United States. But 6 million people, you multiply that by the number of family members that are affected by that, and the cost of it, in healthcare and that type of thing. Just we hear about all the other diseases and all, but you really don't hear a whole lot about dementia and Alzheimer's. So maybe, not only getting the people to know what's going on, but maybe some of those who are making the decisions on where some of the research money goes to, that would be a bonus.
Right, and when it comes to dementia, Alzheimer's, it comes to the point where, with a lot of other diseases, it comes to the point where someone is just unable to take care of themselves. They barely know who they are, don't know the people who can forget who their loved ones are, and it can be very, very sad.
Well, one of the stories I have in regard to my step aunt, I guess, step great aunt, whatever relationship it is. Grandpa Bob got a call at 4 o'clock in the morning, and from the Michigan City, Indiana police. Now his sister lives in Aurora, Illinois. The police department, Michigan City, calls him up. She says, "We have her here. She was driving on the wrong side of the road." Well, I had to go pick her up. But when she talked to the police, they asked her, "What are you doing here?" "Oh, I'm going banking." She was going to her bank. She obviously did not have a bank in Michigan City, Indiana. But that was realism to her. She was going to, especially at 4 o'clock in the morning. So there's no relationship to time, distance, place, location. She was going to do her banking. And this is the kind of thing that, like you said, people can't take care of themselves. Not only that, they become a danger to themselves and others. I mean, to this day, I think everybody's trying to figure out how she made it from Aurora, Illinois to Michigan City, Indiana, not having a clue where she was. So, it affects a lot of people.
And so, like I said before, I'm really looking forward to when this comes out this next month, and I think it's gonna tug at a few heartstrings, and it's gonna relate to a lot of folks, and I'm glad that we got to be a part of it. On a bit of a lighter note, Hollywood Dan, what are some upcoming projects you have coming up?
Oh, well, there we go. I invited you to be part of our Mulligans.
That's right. We had that going on. Yep.
We're in the process of doing the post on that. I'm hoping to have that done by the end of the month, or not, by the end of November. And so you're going to be at another wrap party. And it's basically a bar scene with a number of people who are regulars at that bar. And the different stories that people have. We're talking, sports. We're talking about somebody who's trying to dump out on their tab, and just typical kind of things you have at a bar with regulars who go to that bar on a number of occasions. And we even have a romance a little bit. We have somebody on their first date, their blind date, second date, and third date. and it's just lighthearted, a little bit of fun. There's a little drama in there because some people go to the bar because they're depressed, and they take care of it that way. But no, it was a fun shoot. I think everybody had a jolly good time, and a whole lot of people like yourself got some extra dialogue to do.
Yeah, I loved it. I mean, what I liked about it too is that it's all of us local Chicagoland actors just all together, and we normally just see each other on social media or just sometimes when we're doing a shoot on some project. Every once in a while, maybe we bump into each other in like some audition. But it was that one day that there was a good number of us together.
Yeah,
I thought it was great.
And having fun.
Yeah, I had a few of the guys there. Justin, Kamori, Dre, Boyd, just to name a few. Just want to send a shout out to you guys up there.
Steve Doran.
Yeah.
Me. I'm actually going to be in a couple scenes, which I wasn't planning on it, but we have to do it for some translation stuff. But no, the whole process, like I said, if anybody would have told me six and a half years ago that I would be doing this, I'm the last person that you would ever think. I've never taken a speech class. Well, I took one speech class, almost failed it. Haven't taken any theater, haven't taken any, being on stage frightens the heck out of me. I still can't do an audition worth a darn. Somebody's gonna hire me from something I've done, not being in a room like, doing an audition with you. And anybody else who's, in this quote profession, or if you're doing it as a hobby, you're not the only one having a hard time with auditions. One of the guys that, one of my neighbors down in Arkansas has been a cinematographer for decades. He worked for CNN and Wide World of Sports and ABC, and I don't know how many different major motion pictures he shot. But he was telling me of a story where they were doing interviews with the actors, and he had time to talk with, I think it was Paul Newman, but don't quote me on it even though it's on tape, that before an audition, he got sick enough to puke. Before he's up. Now, you would think somebody as good as Robert Redford, again, I think it was Robert Redford, it might have been somebody else, but an A-list actor to have those same, nervous tension, whatevers, for somebody like you or me, hey, we're not that bad off,
Yeah, and the thing is with auditions, glad you brought that up, it's something that every actor has to do. I mean, it's not a lot of roles will be just handed to you. Some will. I mean, if maybe you have some connections, you have a director that thinks that you're just right for it, but it's just part of the game. It's you have to just go in there and slate and speak those lines, and that's like reality.
Nobody likes taking a driver's test because you're nervous, because you don't want to not turn on your blinker at the right time, whatever it is, so you get nervous driving, but you don't get that license until you take the test. So, same thing.
Yeah, and you're just constantly being tested, and in a way you're just going for it's like going for a job interview over and over again. But hey, it's I think it could be pretty rewarding though, is that after going to 100, the few that you do land make it all worth it. So.
Well, for all those out there that are doing like we're doing it, and I'm not sure about you, this is basically a hobby for me, starting in my mid-60s with no experience whatsoever. I have no qualms about me making a career out of this. People say, well, look at all those old actors that are still working. I says, yeah, but they've got 30 or 40 years of experience. I don't have time to do 30 or 40 years of experience. So for me, if I get the gig, if I don't get the gig, it doesn't make that much difference because my life doesn't depend on it, where, some of the younger people who want to make a career out of it, it's certainly more important for them.
Right. Now, just to be completely hypothetical, let's say we could wind back the clock. Maybe, maybe a few decades.
For me, it would be a number of decades, yeah.
Okay, all right. Now, would you pursue acting as a career?
If I had 20/20 hindsight. You betcha. I mean, it is such a blast to do. Now, maybe that's coming from not having ever done it before. Maybe after doing it for 10 or 15 years, I would find it to be a depressing type of thing where you're always pushed and everything else, and the stress factors and all. Maybe I wouldn't do it for an extended period of time, but oh yeah, if I had the opportunity to change things, oh sure, you bet.
Okay. So, second to last thing I want to ask, what advice would you give people, some up-and-coming people in the industry now, maybe some of your local Chicago actors, that are, especially the ones that are watching? What do you want to tell them?
Couple things, and again, I don't have the experience some of the other people do. I've only been doing this for a few years. I was an extra for 3 years, and I've just been doing the acting thing. I think I've done 12 productions so far. Number one, there are a whole lot of important things in your life, your family and health and all this other stuff. And what you have to remember, if you don't get a callback or if you don't get the role, you have to realize there are, in any major motion picture, how many A-listers audition for one particular role and only one of those people get it.
That's true.
So you have, I'm sure Tom Hanks probably gets his choice, whatever it was, and Harrison Ford gets choices. But you look at a lot of the other A-listers, and you have maybe a dozen starlets. Only one of them is going to get that role. How many? Pretty Woman is a good example. How many A-list actresses went to get that role that she got? Julia Roberts, I don't know that she would have been picked, quote, as an A-lister at that time. But there it goes. So
Right.
you just never know.
This industry can be very competitive. I mean, if you think it's competitive here in Chicago, I mean, I haven't worked into other industries. I haven't been to a place like Los Angeles or New York. Could be pretty competitive over there. But last thing I want to ask you, Hollywood Dan, is who'd you like to give a shout out to anyone watching?
Oh, well, we were talking about LaRita for so much. I give her so much credit for me being able to do what I did. She drew things out of me that I didn't think would ever, come out. I didn't know I could do that. A death scene and going from recognizing somebody 1 minute to the next minute, they scared the devil out of me. So yeah, her and just about any person who's pursuing this, I think deserves some credit because it is a tough job. It's a tough thing to be able to accomplish.
All right. Well, Hollywood Dan, it's been a pleasure having you on the show.
Well, hey, Bob, we will see you at the next wrap,
At the screen.
and then we'll see you at my wrap.
Right. We got some venues to go to.
Absolutely.
All right. So, yes, also to our viewers once again. So, Love's Last Dance premieres November 16th. It stars Hollywood Dan Kairas, Angela Beckfield, Keli Delane, and Verna Bernstein.
And don't forget.
Oh, yeah, I'm in it too. But thanks for watching another episode of the Bobby Experience. And I and Hollywood Dan signing off. Have a good day.
Have a good one.